Because when the flame starts to shine again, everything around you gains more color and more meaning. It's as if suddenly you can see details that were once hidden by the fog of exhaustion. A loved one's laughter sounds sweeter. Breakfast stops being a rush and becomes a small ritual. Even the simplest tasks that once felt like a burden take on a different flavor. This doesn't mean life becomes perfect, but it does mean you regain the inner strength to handle whatever comes your way. And maybe that's the biggest secret of all, realizing that burnout isn't just about too much work, but about the absence of life within life. It's when you live on autopilot, running after demands, expectations, external goals, while forgetting to nurture your own essence. The 3 habits I shared with you, conscious pauses, nightly disconnection, and restorative movement, are like small reminders that you exist beyond obligations. They bring back humanity into your routine. Think about this. How many times have you gone through an entire day, and at bedtime asked yourself, what did I actually live today? You woke up early, rushed, answered emails, handled demands, ate quickly, solved problems, came home exhausted. But at what moment did you really feel alive? That question hurts because it reveals a truth. Many times we're just surviving, not truly living. And it's that emptiness that opens the door for burnout. The habits that seem small are, in fact, seeds. When you take a conscious pause in the middle of the morning, you're planting presence. When you decide to disconnect from screens at night, you're planting true rest. When you move your body gently, you're planting energy. Over time, these seeds grow into a tree of balance, strong enough to withstand strong winds without breaking. But I know that right now you might be thinking, I don't have time for this. And I want to tell you, gently, that it's precisely because you don't have time that you need it. Because if you don't take care now, your body will eventually find a way to stop you. And when that happens, the cost is much higher. I've seen people who only understood the seriousness of burnout when they were forced to take months off work, when they lost relationships, when they began having anxiety attacks that kept them from leaving the house. It doesn't have to get that far. You can act sooner. And you know what's beautiful? You don't need to change everything at once. You don't need to turn your entire life upside down. It's enough to begin with one gesture, one habit, one breath, because each small step opens the way for the next. It's like opening a window in a closed room. The very first crack already brings light, already brings air, already gives you the sense that there's a world outside waiting for you. Maybe your first step is simply closing your eyes right now and taking 3 deep breaths. Just that. Maybe it's committing to walking 5 extra minutes tomorrow. Or maybe it's deciding that tonight, before going to bed, you'll leave your phone in another room. It sounds insignificant, but it's these gestures, repeated, that create real transformation. Here's a metaphor I love to use. Imagine a candle. When it's lit, it brightens the whole room. But if the wind of hurry, pressure, and stress blows too hard, the flame flickers. If you don't protect that candle, it goes out. A conscious pause is like cupping your hands around the flame. Nightly disconnection is like closing the window so the wind doesn't come in. Restorative movement is like giving the flame the right amount of oxygen so it burns brighter. You don't need to do anything extraordinary. You just need to care consistently. And here's what's even more powerful. When you protect your flame, it doesn't just light your way. It lights the way for those around you. A professional who isn't burned out can be more creative, more present. A parent with energy can play with their children with joy. A partner who takes care of themselves can love with more quality. Taking care of yourself is never selfish. It's actually an act of generosity that overflows into the lives of others. So, if you've stayed with me this far, I want you to hold this close to your heart. Preventing burnout is not about being stronger or pushing through harder. It's about learning to be kind to yourself. It's about realizing that you don't have to prove yourself all the time, that rest isn't a prize you earn when you finish everything, but an essential part of the process. Rest is invisible productivity. It's the fertile ground where your best ideas and greatest strengths grow. Now I want to leave you with this final reflection for part 1. What would your life look like if you had real energy every single day? What would it feel like to wake up refreshed, face challenges with clarity, and actually enjoy the little things? What would it mean to live without that constant sense of being behind, of owing, of never being enough? That's the life that begins when you decide to adopt simple but powerful habits. And remember, no one does this alone. That's why this channel exists, to be a safe space where you find support, motivation, and practical paths forward. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. That way, you won't miss any of the upcoming content that will dive even deeper into how to overcome burnout and truly restore your energy. Burnout doesn't announce itself with a loud bang. It creeps in quietly, hiding in the way you sigh when you wake up, in the lack of excitement when Friday comes, in the endless scrolling at night because your mind is too restless to let you sleep. It feels like a thief stealing your joy piece by piece until one day you realize you don't recognize yourself anymore. And yet, as heavy as it is, burnout doesn't have to be a life sentence. The same way it builds little by little, you can also reverse it step by step. In the first part, we talked about 3 powerful habits: conscious pauses, nightly disconnection, and restorative movement. These are like anchors that bring you back to yourself, but there's something deeper behind them, a mindset shift. Because habits only become transformative when they're rooted in a new way of seeing yourself and your worth. Let me ask you something. How often do you confuse your value with your productivity? How often do you measure your worth by how much you got done in a day? This is one of the most toxic traps that fuel burnout. You are not a machine built to produce. You are a human being with rhythms, emotions, limits, and needs. When you start honoring that truth, habits stop being just another task on your to-do list and become sacred rituals of self-respect. Think about a phone battery. You don't expect it to last forever without recharging, right? You accept that it needs to be plugged in regularly. So why do we believe we should run endlessly without recharging ourselves? We often treat rest as laziness, when in fact, it's the most responsible thing we can do for ourselves and for those who depend on us. Another truth about burnout is that it thrives in isolation. When you carry the weight alone, when you feel no one understands, exhaustion becomes heavier. That's why sharing your struggles matters. Talking to a trusted friend, joining a support group, or seeking professional help can be a turning point. Because in those conversations, you realize you're not broken, you're not weak, you're human, and humans are built for connection. Here's something powerful to remember. Burnout is not a personal failure. It's a signal. It's your body, mind, and soul asking for change. Ignoring it is like ignoring a fire alarm while smoke fills the room. Listening to it is the first step to healing. And healing doesn't happen in one dramatic moment. It happens in the gentle, consistent choice to care for yourself. I want you to imagine a version of yourself 6 months from now. Picture yourself waking up without that heavy dread in your chest. You stretch, take a deep breath, and instead of exhaustion, you feel calm energy. Throughout the day, you handle challenges, yes, but you don't feel crushed by them. You even find joy in little pauses. Sipping your coffee slowly, listening to a song you love, smiling at someone you care about. Doesn't that feel possible? That version of you is already within you, waiting to be nurtured by small choices today. Of course, the path isn't linear. There will be days when you feel you're slipping back, days when rest feels impossible, days when stress wins, and that's okay. Healing isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. Every time you choose one small habit, to pause, to disconnect, to move, you're proving to yourself that you matter. You're building resilience, not through force, but through compassion. Let me share a story that might resonate. There was a woman who worked endlessly, never saying no, always taking on more. She thought if she kept going, she would finally reach a point of peace. But instead, she collapsed into burnout so severe that she could barely get out of bed. In the beginning, she felt shame, but slowly she learned that rest was not something to earn, it was something to allow. She began with tiny steps. 5 minutes of silence in the morning, leaving her phone outside her bedroom, walking after dinner. Over time, her energy returned, not because she did something dramatic, but because she committed to small, consistent acts of care. Today, she says the biggest lesson burnout taught her is that strength doesn't come from doing more, but from honoring your limits, and that lesson is something I want you to carry with you. Strength is not about never stopping, it's about knowing when to pause. True strength is gentle. It's choosing balance over burnout, presence over pressure, health over hustle. So, how do you start this journey? First, with awareness. Pay attention to your body's signals, the tension in your shoulders, the racing thoughts at night, the constant fatigue. These are not nuisances to push through. They're messages to listen to. Second, with intention. Choose one habit and commit to it. Not perfectly, not forever, just today. Then tomorrow, choose again. That's how transformation is built. And third, with compassion. Be patient with yourself. If you slip, it doesn't mean you failed, it just means you're human. Start again. Gently. Every attempt is progress. If you're listening to this and thinking, I don't know if I can do it, I want to reassure you, you can. You've already taken the first step by being here, by seeking knowledge, by allowing these words to reach you. That means the flame inside you is still alive even if it's flickering, and as long as it's alive, it can grow brighter. So here's my invitation. Don't let burnout define your story. Let this moment be a turning point. Let it be the chapter where you chose to honor yourself, where you learned to breathe again, where you found joy in the small things. Imagine looking back one day and saying, that was the moment I decided to change. This can be that moment. And remember, you don't have to do this alone. Stay connected to spaces like this, where you find encouragement and practical tools. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. Not just to support the work here, but to give yourself ongoing reminders that you're not alone and that healing is possible. Before we close, I want you to take a deep breath with me. Inhale slowly, hold, and exhale. Feel the weight leaving your body. Remind yourself, I am not a machine. I am allowed to rest. I am worthy of peace. And if these words touched you, I invite you to share in the comments. I choose to protect my energy. This simple phrase can be your declaration, a reminder that from this moment forward, you are choosing life over burnout. Because at the end of the day, burnout doesn't win. What wins is your choice to care for yourself, to keep your flame alive, to live with more color, more meaning, and more joy. So take this with you. You are not alone. You are not weak, and you are not your exhaustion. You are a whole human being with the power to create change, one small choice at a time. And that choice begins now, not tomorrow, not when things slow down, not when you finally feel ready, but here, in this very moment. Because the truth is, life never really slows down on its own. There will always be deadlines, responsibilities, and unexpected challenges. If you wait for the perfect moment to care for yourself, it may never come. That's why reclaiming your energy is not about waiting, it's about deciding. Think about a plant in your home. You don't wait until it's completely withered to give it water, right? You notice the soil getting dry, the leaves starting to droop, and you care for it before it's too late. You don't blame the plant for needing water. You simply accept that it's part of keeping it alive. Why then do we treat ourselves differently? Why do we wait until our body collapses, until our mind is screaming, before we allow ourselves the care we desperately need? Burnout prevention isn't about luxury, it's about maintenance. It's like keeping a car engine tuned. If you never change the oil, the car eventually breaks down. And, unlike a car, you can't replace your body or your mind when they've been pushed too far. You only get one. So treating your rest as optional is like driving full speed on an empty tank, hoping somehow you'll make it. You won't. But the good news is, you don't need to. You can refill along the way. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is asking yourself a simple question throughout the day. What do I need right now? Sometimes the answer will be water. Sometimes it will be a stretch. Sometimes it will be stepping outside for a breath of fresh air. Other times it may be a real pause, turning off notifications, putting the phone away, allowing your brain to reset. Listening to this question and honoring the answer is one of the fastest ways to rebuild your connection to yourself. And here's something you might not have realized. The small things add up more than the big ones. We often believe we need a vacation to reset, a major lifestyle overhaul, or months away from work. While those things can help, what truly prevents burnout is the everyday care. The small choices, repeated daily, build resilience. 5 minutes of silence, 10 minutes of walking, 15 minutes with no screens before bed. They sound small, but over weeks and months, they completely rewire your nervous system, lowering stress and increasing your capacity to handle challenges. I want you to picture two different futures. In the first, you keep ignoring the signs, pushing yourself harder, telling yourself you'll rest later. In that future, burnout tightens its grip. Your body becomes heavier. Your joy fades. Your relationships suffer. Now picture the second future, one where you start today with just one habit. Maybe it's that nightly disconnection. Maybe it's that conscious pause. Maybe it's walking for 10 minutes. Slowly, your flame grows stronger. Your mornings feel lighter. Your focus sharpens. Your emotions soften. Which future feels more like the life you want? And which one are you choosing with your actions today? Let me ask you something more personal. When was the last time you felt proud not because you accomplished something big, but because you honored yourself? When was the last time you said no to something that drained you, or yes to something that restored you? These are the quiet victories that protect you from burnout. And yet, they're the victories we often overlook. Society celebrates hustle, overwork, and busyness. But what if true success is measured not by how much you push through, but by how much peace you preserve? Here's the truth. You deserve to feel alive, not just functional. You deserve mornings where you wake up without dread, afternoons where you laugh, evenings where you rest. You deserve a life that feels like living, not just surviving. And that life is possible, not with one giant leap, but with steady, intentional steps. And remember, burnout doesn't happen overnight, and neither does recovery. Be patient. Some days will feel like progress, others like setbacks. That's okay. Healing is not a straight line. It's a spiral. Every time you return to your habits, every time you remind yourself to pause, to disconnect, to move, you're circling closer and closer to balance. Even on the hard days, you're still moving forward. If you need a reminder, let this be it. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to slow down. You are allowed to care for yourself without guilt. In fact, not only are you allowed, you are responsible for it. Because no one else can protect your energy for you. People may support you, but at the end of the day, only you can choose to honor your limits. So, I want to leave you with one last exercise. Tonight, before you go to bed, take out a piece of paper and write down one small habit you will commit to tomorrow. Just one. Don't aim for perfection. Don't aim for 10 things. Start with one. Maybe it's a morning pause. Maybe it's no screens before sleep. Maybe it's stretching after lunch. Whatever it is, write it down. And then, tomorrow, honor it. That one habit is not small. It's the doorway to change. And if you'd like, share it in the comments with this phrase: tomorrow, I will honor myself by This way, you not only commit to yourself, but also inspire others who may need to see that they're not alone. As we close, I want you to know this. Burnout doesn't define you. It's not who you are. It's just a signal, a chapter, a moment in your story. And like every story, this one can change direction. You have the power to write the next chapter differently, with more rest, more balance, more life. So take this moment, right now, as a turning point. Breathe deeply. Feel your chest rise and fall. Whisper to yourself, even quietly, I choose to protect my flame. I choose balance. I choose me. And if these words touched you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and stay with us on this journey. Because here, you will always find a safe space, encouragement, and real tools to reclaim your energy. You are not alone. You are not weak, and you are not your exhaustion. You are a whole, valuable human being, worthy of peace and joy. And this, right now, is the beginning of your recovery.